Listen to me very carefully, because what I'm about to tell you is going to explain something that has been sitting in your chest for a long time without a name. There was a plan. There was an actual plan built around you, built around one specific assumption that you would stay quiet, that you would keep absorbing, that you would keep shrinking, that you would keep letting things happen and never, ever say a word. And you didn't. That's it. That's the whole story in one sentence. But I need you to understand exactly what that sentence cost the people who built that plan. Because right now, they are living in the wreckage of it, and they don't know how to explain to anyone what happened. Let's go back to the beginning, because you need to see this clearly, not through the fog of self-doubt you've been carrying, but through the truth of what actually took place. There was a version of you they were counting on, a version that absorbs, a version that apologizes for things that were never your fault, a version that stays small so everyone else can stay comfortable. And for a long time, longer than you'd like to admit, that version of you is who showed up. Not because you were weak, not because you didn't see it, but because somewhere along the way you were taught that peace meant silence, that love meant tolerance, that belonging meant never making anyone uncomfortable, even when they were the ones causing the discomfort. They knew that about you, and they built around it. Here's where it gets uncomfortable. Yeah, uncomfortable, but necessary. Because I need you to really sit with this. The plan wasn't random. It wasn't a coincidence. Somebody, or some group of somebodies, looked at you and made a calculation. They looked at your patience and mistook it for a permanent condition. They looked at your kindness and mistook it for weakness. They looked at the fact that you hadn't said anything yet, and they assumed, wrongly, completely wrongly, that you never would. So they moved, quietly at first, a comment here, a decision made without you, a boundary tested just to see if you'd notice, and if you noticed, whether you'd say anything about it. And when you didn't, not right away, they took that as confirmation. They took your silence as consent. And that's when the plan stopped being an idea and started being a strategy. Think about it. Think about the moments that didn't sit right with you, but that you let go anyway. Think about the times you felt something shift in a conversation, a decision, a relationship, and you told yourself you were overreacting. Think about how many times you talked yourself out of speaking up because you didn't want to be that person. Every single one of those moments was data to them. Every single one confirmed what they believed about you, that you would take it, that you would always take it. They built their whole plan around that. And here's what nobody tells you about people who build plans around your silence. They never actually plan for the moment you stop being silent. It's not in their calculations. It's not in their contingencies. Because in their mind, that moment doesn't exist. You're not a variable to them, you're a constant. And constants, by definition, don't change. Except you did. Let's slow down here, because this is the part that matters most. The moment you stopped staying quiet wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It probably didn't look like what you imagined it would look like when you used to fantasize about finally saying something. It was quieter than that. It was you, one day, simply not absorbing the thing you would have absorbed a year ago. It was you asking a question you would have swallowed. It was you saying, actually, no, in a moment where the old version of you would have said, it's fine. And in that moment, that one small, unremarkable moment, the entire plan they built started to collapse. Not because you announced a revolution, because you removed the one ingredient the whole plan depended on, your compliance. Here's the part that will really change how you see everything that's happened since. People who build plans around someone's silence are not prepared for that person's voice. It's not that they don't hear you, it's that they don't know what to do with the version of you that speaks. They had a whole strategy for managing the quiet you. They have nothing for this one. That's why they're scrambling right now. That's why the reactions have felt so disproportionate to what you actually said or did. You didn't burn anything down. You didn't seek revenge. You just stopped playing the role they cast you in. And that alone was enough to expose the entire structure they had built, because that structure was never stable. It was never solid. It was held up entirely by your willingness to not notice, not react, not name what was happening. The second you noticed, really noticed, the whole thing had nowhere left to stand. I want you to think about the specific people who are uncomfortable right now. Not in a vague way. Think about who actually changed how they act around you recently. Someone got quieter. Someone got defensive over nothing. Someone started explaining themselves to you in a way they never used to bother with. That's not you imagining things. That is exactly what it looks like when a plan built on your silence meets a version of you that no longer provides it. They will not tell you this directly. They can't. Because telling you would mean admitting there was a plan in the first place, admitting that your compliance was something they were counting on, something they were managing, something they needed. And admitting that means admitting they saw you as a problem to be handled instead of a person to be respected. That's too much for most people to face about themselves. So instead, they'll do something else. They'll try to make your voice the problem. They'll call it a change in you. They'll say you got difficult or sensitive or not like you used to be. Let me tell you exactly what that sentence means when someone says it. You're not like you used to be is not a criticism. It is a confession. It's them telling you, without meaning to, that the version of you they preferred was the version who didn't push back. That's not about who you are now. That's about what they lose when you stop being manageable. And here's the truth that's going to set something loose in your chest. You were never supposed to be manageable. You were never built to be a constant in someone else's convenient equation. The discomfort they're feeling right now isn't proof that you did something wrong. It's proof that the plan is failing exactly the way it should. Let's talk about what happens next, because this is where a lot of people get it wrong. They think that once you stop staying quiet, the story is over, that speaking up is the finish line. It's not. Speaking up is the moment the real test begins, because now they're going to try something else. When silence stops working, people who are used to controlling a dynamic don't just give up. They escalate. They might get louder, more accusatory, more dramatic, trying to provoke you back into the old pattern, back into apologizing your way back to quiet. Or they might do the opposite, go cold, distant, punishing you with withdrawal, hoping the discomfort of losing their approval will make you shrink again. Don't fall for either one. The loudness is not strength. It's panic wearing a mask. The coldness is not indifference. It's a last attempt at leverage. Neither of them is actually about you. Both of them are about a plan that no longer works, run by people who haven't built a new one yet, because they never thought they'd need to. Here's what I need you to understand about where you are standing right now. You are not in the aftermath of a mistake. You are in the aftermath of a correction. Something that should have shifted a long time ago finally shifted. And yes, it's uncomfortable. Yes, it's brought tension you didn't ask for. Yes, some people are treating you differently and not always kindly. But none of that is evidence that you did something wrong. It's evidence that you stopped doing the thing that made everyone else comfortable at your expense. There is a difference, a massive difference, between peace and the absence of conflict. What you had before, when you stayed quiet, wasn't peace. It was the appearance of peace, purchased with your own silence. Paid for every single time you swallowed something that needed to be said. Real peace doesn't require you to disappear. Real peace doesn't collapse the second you have a voice. If the peace in your life could only survive on your silence, it was never peace. It was control, wearing a softer name. I know part of you is scared right now. I know part of you wonders if you moved too fast, said too much, broke something that can't be repaired. Let me be very clear with you. If a relationship, a dynamic, a role in someone's life can only survive when you stay small, it was never designed to hold the real you. You didn't break something valuable, you revealed something that was never as strong as it looked. And here's the part that's going to matter most in the weeks ahead. The people who are scrambling right now, adjusting, recalculating, trying to figure out how to handle this new version of you, some of them are going to come around. Genuinely. They're going to realize that the version of you who speaks is not someone to fear, but someone to actually know for the first time. Those people are worth keeping close because their discomfort was temporary and their respect is real. But some of them won't come around. Some of them will simply step back because without your silence, they don't know what role they play in your life anymore. And that's going to hurt. I'm not going to pretend it won't. But I need you to know something about that pain. It is not a sign you did something wrong. It's the natural cost of no longer being available for a dynamic that required your disappearance. That cost was always going to come due eventually. You just finally stopped postponing it. Here's the truth underneath all of this, the thing I really want you to walk away with today. You were never the quiet one because you had nothing to say. You were quiet because you were carrying the weight of everyone else's comfort on top of your own feelings, and something in you decided that keeping the peace mattered more than being heard. That's not a flaw. That's not weakness. That is one of the most exhausting forms of strength there is, and you carried it for a long time. But strength that only protects other people's comfort eventually turns into a cage for the person carrying it. And you felt that cage. You felt it closing in, little by little, every time you swallowed something you needed to say. And one day, maybe recently, maybe longer ago than you even realize, you decided the cage wasn't worth it anymore. That decision is the whole story. Everything since then, the tension, the scrambling, the people acting strange around you, all of it is just the ripple effect of one quiet, unremarkable, completely unstoppable decision. You stopped staying quiet. They built a plan that depended on you never doing that. You did it anyway. And there is no version of their plan, none, that survives the version of you who has found their voice and has no intention of losing it again. So if you're feeling the aftershocks of that right now, the strange looks, the sudden distance, the people who used to talk over you now choosing their words more carefully, know exactly what you're looking at. You're not looking at a mess you created. You're looking at proof that something in you that was asleep for a long time has finally woken all the way up. Let it stay awake. You didn't stay quiet, and you're never going back.